Got a great opportunity here on the Chiropractic Podcast. Fantastic guest. I think you're really going to enjoy this as we unpack a lot of history of chiropractic and then, just where we are today and kind of some of the things that we see on the horizon or what we need to see on the horizon. But I got Dr. Paul Sorchy in the studio with me today, and I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about his history, but he's got quite the background, and then we can even take it back to like the foundation of here in the state of Florida where you and I are, the Florida Chiropractic Society and, the inception of that and, the interconnections between me and you just in that society. And then just a little bit of history on the chiropractic, what it means, what we've seen over the last decades, the transformations that have taken place, but the core identity that can't be, just can't be replaced. We have to make sure that light burns bright for years to come. So, first of all, Dr. Paul, just welcome. Appreciate you taking the time today to join us.
It's my privilege.
And I guess tell everybody that doesn't know you like I do a little bit about the history and your background.
Well, I'm Paul Sorchy. I was born and raised in Tarpon Springs, Florida. And when I was a kid, I decided to be a chiropractor sometime around the 8th grade. And same year I gave my heart to the Lord Jesus Christ. And that was my my turning point that launched something that would become the favor of God. And I get to be a part of a movement that I didn't know existed, but it was already underway, and I am just a prodigy of the giants that surrounded me. So today I'm currently the vice president for the Florida Chiropractic Society, and I get to play a role with the where we keep chiropractic, and the only principled organization in the state of Florida.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was where I was saying our paths crossed with my father.
Yes.
I'll let you tell that, but I mean, like my dad was one of the original founding members of the
Oh, it's a great story. Yes. Yeah. And he was in the original 5. So, going back to 1958, there was only one organization. There was the FCA in the state of Florida, and every chiropractor was a member back then. They've been around since like 1932. But BJ had some strong concerns, and so in 1958, BJ was speaking at a luncheon in Orlando, and he had this group of doctors, and he was promoting his new book, Who Shall Save Chiropractic? I believe that was the name of the book. And he had concerns. So they all got together, a group of guys got together in Tampa at the FCA convention, and they started what was called the MAC, the MAC. And it was the a member action committee. And there was 5 doctors that were on that, including Dr. Tom Owen, your father. And their job was to help keep chiropractic, even though the direction that the FCA was going was to try to expand the scope of chiropractic. Now, this is in 1958.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is not a young battle. They were very concerned, and so it wouldn't be but for a few years later that they're in another meeting in Orlando, and it's now 1965. We lost BJ in 1961, and they were losing ground. The FCA was continuing this battle of what they considered the expansion, the progress of chiropractic, and they were trying to change the scope. And that's when the Florida Chiropractic Society was birthed. There was Dr. Kuhn. We had Dr. Mayer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, goodness. We
Dr.
had
Mayer is Dr. Julie Hunt's father.
Yeah, Dr. Julie Hunt's father.
That's right.
Oh, goodness. There was Burton Pierce, Walter Aiken, who we just lost not too long ago recently. I spent some time with his family. And, of course, your father.
Yeah, Dr. Aiken, great guy.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
So these 5 folks in 1965 started the Florida Chiropractic Society, and from that point on, it was 1968. They took a large battle to get accreditation to be able to do continuing education classes and to do teachings. In 1968 in Orlando, they had their first continuing education seminar, and their speakers C2, Carl Cleveland II, and Reggie Gold.
Oh, really?
Yes. And they packed a house, and it created a movement, and your dad was a vital part of that. And today, the only principled chiropractic organization in the state of Florida, the FCS, still alive and well.
And that was, the whole foundation of that was for the purpose of the preservation of chiropractic. I remember, I don't know if it was my father quoting BJ, or it was just my dad taking what BJ and then sharing it with me. He said, son, he goes, chiropractic is like the Word of God. And I was like, well, that's a pretty heavy statement there, Pops. And he says, well, he said, the further you get off the truth of the Word of God, the further your life goes to the shambles.
That's it.
Right? He says the further we get off the truth of chiropractic, we will get to a point that the profession will fall to shambles and we'll lose our identity. And that works with mine and your faith, right?
Sure.
To think about that is because, I don't want to turn this into a faith podcast, but, that's what our faith says is that the enemy takes the truth, twists it, makes you look at a different perspective, but you lose the truth, and all of a sudden you're on shaky ground. Mm-hmm. So in other words, it causes the confusion, and you lose that identity of Christ.
Yes.
Same thing in chiropractic. The way I understood it was, the further we got, BJ was always concerned, the further you get off the truth. There's nothing wrong with some of like the adjuncts and things of that nature, but we're going to lose our core identity. And I've only been around for, really active for 37 years. I guess I grew up around it.
Sure.
Every breath of my life has been around folks like Clarence Gonstead, Roy Sweat, Bill Harris, the Boutwells. These are monster men, powerhouse men that I grew up around. But, I have slowly watched, and and I think it's offensive to me in some ways, because I'm like, I've spent 37 years of my life trying to fight for chiropractic in one way, shape, or form. Now, most of the time I'm fighting for the chiropractor.
Yes.
Because I just have a love of people. That's my gift. But there's times that I sit here, Dr. Paul, and love to hear your take on it, but there's times I just get frustrated going, what the heck have I been fighting for that the chiropractor themselves seems to not always fight for it? It's like we're trying to fit into something rather than standing out.
Well, there's voices on the daily basis. And so when we get into actual practices and you start to have the negatives, it just takes one negative in the midst of a day to ruin all the positives. And so it's I always want to dwell on the 199 that had an amazing adjustment, but there's that one person who has a complaint, and boy, you'll go home and you'll be thinking about that one person. It's like, gosh, I just had a typical 200 patient adjusting day, and what happens? Something about that one adjustment, or that one complaint that says, well, I'm going to go somewhere else because they threw in some extra therapies, or they did something above and beyond that wasn't chiropractic, or they challenge our belief system. And so that's the one person where, I've now learned to thrive on that one person. Like, wow, that was great. I kicked this person out of the office. And so that one person needed to go. They needed to go up the road to the osteopath. They needed to go to the general practitioner because what they were looking for was not chiropractic. If we start focusing on that one lost sheep, and that's it. Now, I'm not Jesus Christ. So that one lost sheep is a person who was trying to pull me in the wrong direction. They were lost. Mm-hmm. They're not, I tried to find them, but you know what? You've heard it. Some will, some won't. So what? Next. I don't want to have that carelessness because I really do care about the person. And I want that patient to come over to the side. But they belong in somebody else's practice because they're just going to cause me the turmoil. Those other 199 folks deserve all of my best and my attention. The will of God always sends another one to fill in that 200th spot. Mm-hmm. And there are people who are looking for what we want to deliver what we have and what we are experts at. If we try to appease everybody, we're never going to win. And I think that's what it comes down to. So as much as I will fight for that last person, if this was their soul, I will be relentless. It's their spine. And honestly, I wish it was, and that's big, but quite frankly, they're going to take me down. They're not going to convert in some cases. So that's where you come in. I mean, you've had the opportunity to help doctors. Let's see if we can't alter that transition of what they're thinking before they ask the questions. Let's set the stage that they know what to expect out of the doctors that have been trained properly, that they understand why they're there. And we're going to give them a new hope. We're going to give them a new understanding of healthcare. And that's what they're going to desire. It's what they're going to want. And they won't think about all these other things. So to me, that one person that leaves, that's always a lesson that I've learned. I failed somewhere to help them to know what chiropractic really is. And they were pushing me and they were mad at me and I just couldn't win them over. So I can't dwell on it because I have to focus on the 199. So I know that sometimes there's my heart is certainly, of course, for them, but I also have to know when to give up and let them learn their lesson. Maybe they'll come back. I send them off in love. I send them to an osteopath up the road who does those other techniques and therapies that they're looking for. Now, notice I said I send them to the osteopath up the road because that's the person who can who's allowed and is also qualified, and it's part of their scope of practice to do what that patient was looking for. It's different than chiropractic. And so that's my training since we got into that.
That's good. When you're saying it, everything that you just said reminds me of the principle of within, practice management, the people, you got to recommend the best. I have philosophies, right? And it ties into what you just said is all you can do is recommend the best. Now, not recommend what you think the patient can afford, right? We hadn't got into that. Not recommend what you think the insurance is going to cover. Recommend the best. Expect the best, which is pour your heart into them. Give them your best, and then expect for what chiropractic can do for them. They've got to stick around long enough to experience what chiropractic can do. So if they're in and out in 3, 4, 6 visits, they're not experiencing.
Yeah.
We're not giving them the best experience of what chiropractic is. But when you do those two things, recommend the best, the absolute best. What does that patient really need? And then expect it. Then you got to let the chips fall where they may. And that's where another saying is, don't let the minority affect the majority.
That's right.
Which is what you just said. The 1 out of the 200, you'll go home and beat yourself up of, what do I have to do? How did I fail? That's fine. It's fine to reflect of, all right, where did I drop the ball? Or is it just their responsibility? I've got to, as long as I'm recommending the best and I'm expecting the best and giving my best, you're not going to convert everyone. And you talked about what I do. I'm pretty adamant about, there's the side of care, your side, right? The heart that you have of treating the patient. And that's the most important. But there's another side of practice, and that's the business side of it.
Sure. That
it has to operate. You're running a business. You're an educated entrepreneur. There is a staff. There's an overhead. There's a marketing component. There's all, you're running a business plus that. And if I'm involved, I'm looking at it as we can't run a roller coaster. It can be up and down, which is, I see that time and time again, this inconsistency. Nothing will wear you out in practice faster than doing this, not knowing that it's consistent. So my goal is always, hey, if we do everything right, we should be able to convert into lifetime chiropractic patients, people that Dr. Paul wants to serve. We should be able, if we're doing things right, we should be able to convert 8 to 9 out of every 10. Now, I'm not going to get into what the stats actually are in the state of Florida or nationwide because it's not
nowhere near that.
No, but that's what we should be able to do. But am I going to chase the 1 or 2? No, because we gave them the best. And if they circle back, and some of them do, right? But we're not going to focus on those 1 or 2. We're going to focus on the 8. And then those 8 should be able to turn into 8 more if we're sharing the story of chiropractic, the passion of chiropractic, and those 8 will refer, and then we're not having to stand at Walmart doing spinal screenings on our Saturdays.
Which I thoroughly loved my history of standing at the Kmart because we weren't big enough to have a Walmart in Claremont, Florida. We do now.
I was just saying, you are now.
We are now, but we had a Kmart, and granted, it was ironically, it was the most successful Kmart in the Southeast because it was the only store we had. We all wore Kmart jeans because it was the only place to buy pants at the time. BJ, one of his epitaphs says, early to bed, early to rise, work like hell and advertise. And that's both the giving and a business side. Dr. Sid Williams talked about us having the left hand. We have our serving hand, and you get out there and you serve. You serve for the sake of serving. You love for the sake of love, and you give for the sake of giving.
Amen.
Out of our abundance. So now you got a business hand. And so you never let the two know what each other's thinking or doing. And so in the midst of that, that's a delicate balance. And it's difficult for the average doctor to be able to do both. I thrive in both of those, but I can't merge them when I'm sitting with the patient, because when I'm with the patient, it has to be the serving hand. That's what's there. Now, in our pocket, on our procedures, our policies, in our manuals, this is our business side. We stick to those. Just like we have our principles. We've got 33 principles in chiropractic, and outside of that, we don't have room for a whole lot more to add. But those principles will define our philosophy. Our serving in our business hands will give us the concepts of how to emulate and to live that philosophy in a way that makes a difference in this world. There's not a profession that I know who has this, other than being a pastor, or maybe a rabbi. I don't know of anybody else who has foundations that they can work in and thrive in, and always check and balance to make sure that we're doing the right thing. Now, chiropractic it's insane how I'm 30 years that I've been Dr. Paul Sorchy as of this year, and I feel like I'm just getting started. And I have people today who said, "Wow, are you still in practice?" I'm like, "Of course I am." Like, "Well, you're seeing patients." I'm like, "I'm still on the floor every day, including on the weekends. So I get called in, of course, because I'm still a community doctor." Anyway, it's
But can I add to that? Is why are these people that, like myself, we're it's funny you just said 30 years this year since you became Dr. Paul Sorchy. 30 years ago, we started the company known commonly as AMC, and yet my flame is burning just as bright 30 years in as yours is 30 years in.
Sure.
Why? Because we've identified, and this is a big one, I want to make sure chiropractors understand it. What is your purpose? Yeah. And if the purpose of the business or the practice was to make enough money to be comfortable, to have a good career, and one day sell the practice and retire, that's not that purpose. No. That purpose will wear you out, burn you out, and frankly, the practice will never be as successful as it should. Identifying what is the purpose, and once you figure that out, and you and I were just in a classroom downstairs before we did this, and I shared my purpose. I learned I learned that it's not about me. It's not about ego. It's not about greed. It's about abundant life. I think our word of faith, right, that what you and I read, it said Jesus came to give us life and life more abundantly.
Amen.
I always say when I read that passage, people think, well, what does that mean? Well, does that mean I'm abundantly? Well, if abundance in the world's eyes means, okay, does that mean Jesus is going to make sure that I live in a mansion on the water with 2 sports cars and a boat in the back? My answer to that is, well, maybe.
Sure, potentially.
But really what abundance is is living in a life of balance, of love, hope, patience, financially, balanced spiritually, balanced mentally, physically. To me, that's what abundance is. And I can't imagine living an abundant life serving myself.
It wouldn't be abundant then, and it would be it would fall, and it would be disappointing, and it wouldn't be fulfilling.
But so many, I'm just telling you, I want to hear for your side. Today's not about me, but time and time again, that's what I come across. I come across these guys that they have just lost their purpose. They've lost that identity as a chiropractor. They're losing that. They come out of school now and they think that their only hope is just to be an associate, and you know they don't have that drive, and then they have these limited beliefs of what chiropractic is and what it can be, or and limited beliefs just kind of general in life. And that's, to me, you said something a while ago, and I'm going to throw it right back to you here in a second, is I think chiropractic, when you merge the two hands, right, the hand of service and the hand of business, I don't know if I know another quote-unquote profession, business, where you control your potential as much as chiropractic. What I mean by that is, a lot of industries, you don't really get to set your value or set your potential or set your, like I'm in a men's group, and I actually sit at the men's group, and in that men's group there's 3 MDs, 2 surgeons, right? From the outside looking in, oh man, they got it made. I sit there and listen to them on Saturday mornings in my prayer group, and these men are talking about all the control. They have no freedom, and that's all this. And I'm like, I don't experience any of that in the chiropractic practice, is that, because we get to set the pace. We get to control the practice. We get to run it, and it can be as big or as small, inadequate. It can be whatever level you want it to be. And I just think chiropractic provides a level of freedom that, and plus you get to serve and touch lives every day.
You mentioned, getting, walking out there, how do you put it? You said, walking into the office and you couldn't imagine it being, oh goodness, you made a comment. My brain for some reason went to the thought process of if you want to get out of that mode of something's wrong, I'm depressed or whatever it is, all we have to do is put our hands on a patient. And when you have that pure love and intent that person's going to get better, you make that one adjustment, and instantly, in that flash, and everybody should know what I'm talking about, is in that moment, that's where your purpose restores. It wasn't about us. We receive something. Every time I make an adjustment, I receive something back. And honestly, there's part of the addiction. I mean, being a chiropractor I liked the term crack addicts. I thought that was a great name for a catchy show not too long ago. But our addictions, by putting our hands on the patient and receiving that something back, where else do we get that from? I don't know what else I would do. I go on vacations. I'm adjusting the maid. My wife came in on my honeymoon, and I had the maid on the bed. And I was adjusting the Mexican maid.
Awesome.
My wife says, she's like, I knew exactly what was going on as soon as I walked in here. And she's like, my God, can you at least take a vacation? And I was like, this is vacation. I learned a while back that my hands hurt, by the way, if I don't keep pushing. So if I stop adjusting, I'm actually in pain. So I would be adjusting people when I was on vacations. Turns out, just do your push-ups, and it does the same thing for at least that moment, but it doesn't give you the reward. Yeah, the schools are putting out students today, and many chiropractors have never had the opportunity to ever really know the beauty of chiropractic. And that's why they don't have principles. They've never even read a green book. They've never been around other successful chiropractors in a chiropractic. Your father, he would talk along with BJ that there's chiropractic, and that are you a chiropractor? And in one of the last meetings that we had at the Florida Chiropractic Society, we were honoring your father, and he talked about how to have light, it has to come from above down, and it's expressed from inside out. It was an adio expression. This is the purity that came from the doctors from decades ago, generations before us, and that the adio, the above down, inside out expression of light, was always about God working through us. Or in chiropractic, we'd say the power that made the body heals the body. Well, that power is working through us. We're releasing that innate intelligence. This is a conversation that we can have with only some chiropractors. Others think it sounds odd. They're not used to this terminology. So when we try to be fulfilled, when we try to find satisfaction in practice, the stage was never set. They never were given wasn't even just a matter of their purpose. We're not even sure if they were called. So there are those who have been out, honestly, it's like lifeboats. When you bring a management group out there, it says, we're going to help you know the power of who you are. And these are doctors who are just empty vessels, who have a degree, and they walk out and they stand there. They don't know what to do. They have a shingle that's been put up, and there's no purpose. Mm-hmm. But then they realize that they were called, and it just takes somebody to point them in the right direction. And so that might be another chiropractor. It could be one of you who are, instead of chastising the guy in the next town, maybe you go talk to him and help him be successful, because it's more fulfilling for somebody else's success typically than it is for our own. I tell you, that's very addictive to help others reach their potential, not just the patients who pay us, but those who are around us. And I imagine that's probably what you feed off of right there. Tom, I'm sure when you see a chiropractor and that spark goes off, maybe they came from a college that never spoke philosophy. They go into a room and they give an adjustment. For the first time, it's an adjustment versus maybe what was a manipulation from their school. By the way, I commonly say manipulation is how I got my wife to marry me. And a chiropractic adjustment is something specific. But there's something that's meaningful. It's thriving. It's important. Helping those with aimless degrees find purpose and meaning, and success is a byproduct of it.
Amen.
It's trying to help somebody make money. It's kind of like saying I'm going to help a patient feel good. We always say we could care less how you feel. We just want to help you heal. You'll feel good as a side effect. You could care less how much money somebody makes. That's a byproduct of you helping make them successful. If they're successful as a chiropractor, they'll have more money than they ever could have imagined.
But if they're focused on the money,
oh yes,
they won't ever be successful.
They'll never be successful.
That's right. Money's nothing more than talking about my dad. Dad used to have a saying. He says, money's nothing more than the shavings of a good carpenter's tool while constructively at work. If you're focused on your art and you're passionate about what you're applying and what you're doing and how you're doing that, the shavings, the money will be there. But if you're focused on the shavings, then you can't do you can't do your work.
You'll miss the masterpiece.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I love that. I've not heard that before. That's fantastic.
Oh yeah. And while I've got the mic for just a second, just because I want to throw it right back to you. But I firmly agree with you. I mean, unlocking that potential, whether it's through the chiropractic adjustment or like, me sitting right here with Dr. Paul, I don't think I see as much because, man, he's just tapping out. He's not tapping out. He's tapping. He's firing on all cylinders. But I love sitting in a room with an individual and seeing the potential. It's just something. It's like that addiction you're talking about. I'm addicted to being able to see the potential in others, whether that be through chiropractic or through the application of whatever's gotten locked in between those ears. Potential. Here's another great quote. Now this one's mine. It's not Dr. Owen's. Potential is nothing more than truth in waiting. So the potential of the chiropractic adjustment is truth in waiting. So what can come from, whether it's the shavings or if it's total health, it's the potential is there for it all along. All we have to do is start believing in it and acting upon it, and that potential will reveal itself, whether it's instantaneous in the chiropractic adjustment and that's that spark you're feeling, or if it takes me working with somebody 3 years. And 3 years from now, when they're firing all cylinders, and yes, the money is starting to show up, but they're fulfilled. They've got their purpose. They're thriving. Will that mean you trying to tell me that 3 years earlier, when I first sat down with them across the table, that potential was not there? That's why I call it truth in waiting. One last thing. I have a philosophy when it comes to chiropractors. I'm passionate about. I've always had a passion or a love for chiropractic. Okay, but I'm really just on fire for chiropractors, the people. And I have a belief, whether they're coming out of school like this now or not, to me, from a businessman standpoint, I see the chiropractor does more for mankind in one day. Mm-hmm. Now, I've been doing business now for almost 40 years. In one shape or, whether it's chiropractic practice or auto repair businesses and all the different businesses I've been involved with, I look at a chiropractor differently. Like, okay, I've owned auto repair business. I've owned franchises. I've done all these equipment leasing companies, rental, all that stuff. But chiropractic is just different. I've always seen it like, a chiropractor does more for mankind in one day than most attorneys I've met do in a lifetime. And yet, so many chiropractors don't have that identity and understanding of what they're really doing. I mean, they are touching and transforming lives. They should be the most expensive doctor to see.
They should be.
Not the minimalist, right? So I believe in chiropractic more than most chiropractors do. And it drives me nuts. Last but not least, you said something about, that when you're not focused on yourself and you focus on the patient, that's where the miracle takes place, right?
Yes.
Another
present
rule
time consciousness.
Yeah, I have a good friend of mine, Dr. Rick Marks. Great guy to look up. Anybody who's watching, look up Dr. Rick Marks. Amazing communicator on relationships. Yeah, he's got more master degrees than we can shake a stick at. But relationships, parenting, marriage, leadership, the guy's fantastic. But he confirmed one time when I was talking to him about humility and humility of service. He said, well, Tom, he goes, do you know that it's impossible? He goes, it's impossible to be depressed. It's impossible to be anxious. It's impossible to be frustrated when you're serving someone else. You can only be angry, depressed, anxious. And what do we have? We have a whole society that's taken all these drugs for what? Anxiety and depression. Because why? Because we're a self-centered society. And the magic of chiropractic is what I've always seen is like,
that is,
man, you get to lay
so
hands.
true.
You get to lay hands on people every day, and you get to serve. And if your focus is on the patient, it can't be on you, and you're not going to be fearful. You're not going to be anxious. And it was great, just confirmation. Yeah, Dr. Rick, that's exactly what I've been experiencing.
That's
amazing.
phenomenal. That explains the whole concept of what I talked about earlier. I mean, as soon as I put my hands on a patient, and you start to make that adjustment when it's not about me any longer, that's phenomenal. That's the definition that goes right alongside of that. Mm-hmm. I feel like every day is a meme. I don't know. In practice, and I tell this to every student, every single shift, I laugh, I high five and cheer, and I cry. It's a mature practice. So I've known these people for many cases 30 years. I've seen them every single week of my entire practice. There's those patients. Then there's those who are newer. And so when something bad happens in their family, I know them so well, I feel it. That sympathy is there. And then in today's new definition, we understand that sometimes there is empathy, because I do feel that. And that's something that many of us are so close to our patients. They say that we shouldn't become friends with our patients. We shouldn't do business with them. I exclusively do business with my patients. I love my patients. They're not just friends, they're family. Now, I don't necessarily treat family great all the time. Right. I talk to them a certain way, and I talk to patients that same way, which sometimes gets me in trouble. But nonetheless, when we're when we're dealing with a patient one-on-one and we have that moment where we're thinking about something else, we get sidetracked. I've got farms, I've got gyms, I own a gym franchise, and we've got other things that we're doing. If I get off track in my brain, I'm not present time conscious. That's not very serving. That patient doesn't get my very best. The day will suffer. If you want to have a practice that starts to lose volume, allow patients to get half of your attention when you give them an adjustment. When your intent is not there about the entire adjustment, you know why they're here. This is visit, let's say 34 of a biophysics. I'm a CBP, chiropractic biophysics practitioner. So it's visit number 34. I know I'm taking a new x-ray today for a follow-up. There's intent behind everything. They're either in the process of, and there's an end goal in mind. But if I lose that, and I do every day, as does everybody, we're just not perfectly present. But when we need to get back on track, when we recognize that we're off track, you take that moment, close your eyes, get back in state, and then everything falls into place. We were talking about these doctors coming back, coming out of school. I want to be really clear that I'm not who everybody thinks I am. I'm trying to be. And I didn't get into chiropractic because I even understood it. We judge these new students going into school as if they're supposed to know the philosophy. I arrived. I can't tell you I understood why I even went, other than my chiropractor said, and my chiropractor was Greg Serrato. He was in Tarpon Springs. He was a member of the FCS. He was a DE doctor at the time. And he'd said, being a chiropractor, it's like going to a party. You ever go to a party, Paul? Like, well, yeah. So I'm a little kid. I'm in the 7th, 8th grade. And he says you talk to some people for a few minutes and you're kind of done. You go talk to some other people for a few minutes and then you're done. Go to the next room. He says the thing about being a chiropractor is that you are always the life of the party. And I loved that. Now, today I understand that I worship the one who is the way, the truth, and the life. But in the chiropractic office, we are always the life of the party. We get to be on the stage. If you know your strengths finders tests, or if you do a disc profile, I'm a woo. I love when patients like me. I love it when people like me. But the very next thing I want to do is I want to repair them. So, hey, I want you to like and trust me. Now I want you to let me fix you. And so that, I didn't know that, but that was my calling. It took chiropractic to pull that out of me. It took serving. I wasn't licensed yet in the state of Florida. It was 1996. I had just come out of school, and I put a chiropractic table in my old bedroom, and I had a couple of people come by the house that were just local friends and family. And this is what I mean by it happened for me. I didn't do it. I make an adjustment on an older lady, and she goes home. The next day I get a phone call from her, and she says, Paulie, it's Trinity. And she starts to cry, and she goes, whatever you did to me last night, and I'm thinking to myself immediately, like, oh no, I'm not even licensed yet. What did I do to this poor woman? She's crying, and she says, I'm talking to you out of my left ear. And I'm like, okay, that's great news. And I had no idea. She explains to me, she says, well, that's where I use my hearing aid. It's the only ear I can hear out of. And I don't need the hearing aid right now. Tom, I had my first Harvey Lillard. I wasn't licensed, and it happened right then and there in my old bedroom, just giving a regular with adjustment based off the films, by the way, that she did have from her chiropractor, because I knew him. But that day was the day that she got her hearing back, and it happened to be that adjustment. When I tell you that I'm in the midst of my calling, I know that. And it started right then that I was just confirmation. I want every other chiropractor, not to have necessarily a Harvey Lillard, but something that says, I know that this is right where I'm supposed to be. When you walk with that confidence, you're walking just like in the movie, oh goodness, we have to, Harrison Ford in the Holy Grail, where he has to take a step of faith.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Raiders of the Lost Ark, or
The third one.
yeah, it's the third one and anyway, he had to take that step of faith and walk out there. We're so far out there. It's like being Peter in the water. I am so far out in the water. It's not a faith anymore. It's an understanding of knowing and walking in belief. When belief becomes knowing, and knowing is where you live and you exist, that's where we as chiropractors can, we can be in our calling. We can be in our comfort zone. And then we're constantly uncomfortable, but we're comfortable being uncomfortable. I don't know how this is working around me. I can't tell you why the adjustment works the way that it does. I hear all these explanations. That's a bit over my pay rate. I failed biochemistry. I had to take it over. And so I do understand today that if I just do what God called me to do, if I follow the process, amazing things happen around me. You get a chance every day to help pull that out of folks. Some of us are just good technicians and we're nice people, and that's about where I put myself. I'm just a nice guy. I'm just doing what what I was taught to do. I mean well. I know that I'm not the best in the world, but I'm the best for that patient right now when they're in front of me. When you help a chiropractor, Tom, when you look them in the eye and you see the potential and you help pull that out of them, what you're doing is you're not just saving that doctor from a life of misery. You're not just helping his family be successful. You're changing every life that they're going to touch and every life that touches.
That's right.
Imagine if you're taking care of a chiropractor who one day adjusts the next fiend, the next person who was going to be a mass murderer, but because that doctor was good enough to say the right thing, because they knew how to say it, when to say it, and to say it with intent, they make an adjustment. All because Tom was in his calling. You helped save that chiropractor because, as BJ said, you never know how far-reaching something you say, think, or do will affect the lives of millions tomorrow. Yeah. It's so overutilized, but yet it's never less powerful to say that. Every adjustment's never less powerful.
I think it's important before we wrap this episode up to talk about that chiropractor of how do they find it. How do they find this? Granted, what I do, what you're talking about, me pulling the potential out, it is unpacking what's between your ears sometimes, but it's also business and systems and things of that nature. But that passion of what you've tuned into, like stepping out onto that faith. Once you know what you know, don't tell me what you believe. Yeah. I get tired of people telling me what they believe. Tell me what you know, because once you know it, it's that I can take that step.
Sure.
That's why I love just doing things that make sense. If it makes sense, and you and I might have different backgrounds and experiences and stuff, but if we're going to make a plan to move forward, well, let's analyze that step. Would that make sense to do the demographics? Let's say we're going to open a business in a certain location. Let's let the demographics and the numbers tell us that, and take all the things into consideration. We take that step. We can take that step confidently. Same thing becoming a chiropractor. Now, this is the Chiropractors Podcast. Tom Owen and Aligned is going to be here long after Aligned should be here long after Tom Owen's gone. Why? Because it's not based on Tom Owen. It's based on principle. Everything that Aligned teaches is based on a principle. It's not based on my opinion or a scheme or a strategy. Same goes for chiropractic. If the principle of chiropractic dies, now we're in trouble, right? So these students are coming out, and you said something. It was like, you came out of school and you were, well, I'm not exactly sure what or how, but you tuned in. And that would be my thing is that we would wrap this up is, look, I see it time and time and time again. I don't care what the background, I don't care what school they went to. Most of them now, in my opinion, I can't say that they're being trained to be chiropractors.
Yes.
They are being trained to pass a test. I'm going to get one president of a college call me and go, "How dare you say that?" I'm like,
well, how dare they deny it?
Yeah, because you're You're training people to pass a board, but to be chiropractors. And that's why over and over and over and over, it used to be back in the day, I go back 25, 30 years, and the chiropractor came out of school. They were looking for the guidance. They were looking for the direction. They were ready to go out and take on the world. I just get my hands on people. I'm ready to change the world. And now they come out and go, well, I need to get an associate. I need to go work at the joint. Ooh. You know, and I'm not throwing the joint under the bus. I'm just saying they're coming back out with a different mindset of I'm not ready to take on the world. And they got this.
They don't know how.
They got the minimum value of what chiropractic is. So my encouragement before I throw the mic to you to wrap things up is come out of school, and I don't care if it, what technique it is. Don't try to be the jack of all trades. Try to be the master of at least one. And that's, to me, where these technique groups, whether it be upper cervical or CBP or, be passionate about at least one, because a lot of times that's where some of the philosophy is still thriving.
Sure.
And that identity of a chiropractor, and it'll give you the confidence to take that step. And then you tune into a guy like myself, and we put a system in place that gives you the chance to build a deep enough and wide enough foundation that you can scale whatever size building you want to build. We'll create the plan to go forward, but somebody has to live inside that building, and it needs to be a chiropractor.
That's right.
Right?
Chiropractor.
So what would you say, do you agree with that on the,
I completely agree
what
with
other
that.
steps would they, do we tell these young chiropractors to say, because they get defensive. They're like, what do you mean I'm not a chiropractor? You're not what I witnessed. Do you understand? I witnessed the Boutwells. I witnessed Clarence Gonstead.
Wow.
I don't know if you know this. Check this one out. Someone says they're still out there. There's old black and white videos of Clarence Gonstead teaching a small group of doctors of how to adjust an infant, and I'm the infant.
Oh,
so
that's amazing.
When I say that I've been around this stuff,
wow,
I can speak from an experience to say what's coming out now are not what was running around in the 60s and the 70s, 80s and 90s, and something changed somewhere along the way.
Well,
we lose that identity?
We haven't lost our identity yet. And so, the book that BJ was talking about going back to 1958 was Shall Chiropractic Survive? We're still asking that question. And so because of your father laying down roots with a group of other men, other doctors, the Florida Chiropractic Society started. And in Florida, the world knows as Florida goes, so goes the country. And so right now we have a lot of legislation that's in place to make sure that we keep chiropractic. That's the representation. So one, as a student, getting involved in the clubs so you learn your techniques, going above and beyond. But also getting involved in your in whatever state you're going to school, find the principled organization, not the biggest, but the one that's the principled one, the one that has, and then go hang out with those doctors in their offices. As a student, I was a DJ, so I always got paid to be at the party. And so what I did was I would also be the guy who would go pick people up at the airport. So I'd pick up Fred Barge at the airport. I made sure that he had a drink. We'd have a cigar. And so I learned my scoliosis work and my torticollis and my tortipelvis from the doctor who questioned, "Are you the doctor?" from Fred Barge. I am not Webster certified, but I sat at the feet of a giant in his office in Atlanta, and I learned how to adjust infants and children and how to deal with parents by Larry Webster and Charlie Cobb, his associate. Charlie Cobb was my most important mentor in my entire life. He was the one who started the Delta Sigma Chi fraternity at Life University. He was also should have been the president of Life West. It was between Charlie Cobb and Gerald Klum. I was taught upper cervical by John Grostick. I was taught Thompson technique by Clay Thompson because his granddaughter was in my class. Sid Williams taught me a philosophy that isn't etched in my head. I hung on every word. Dr. Sigafus, I heard the stories. I heard how Mary was run over by a car, and she was hers or Alice that needed to be adjusted. We were at the feet of giants.
Yes.
And today, I think what's wrong is that we don't realize we have surpassed our mentors in practice, I don't know about technique, but we've surpassed them in volume. We've surpassed them in many ways. But respectfully, you never surpass your mentor. But if you're a mentor, those who you're mentoring should surpass you if you're doing your job well. We have not accepted the roles that we are giants today because we're humble about it. The doctors before us, they didn't realize that they were the giants. They didn't know that we hung on every word. So when we take accountability and responsibility to reach out to the young doctors or to the doctors who are in practice, who maybe have been there for 15 years, but they're failing. Their practices look miserable. We don't make friends with them. We don't go help them, but we used to. We were brothers and sisters in chiropractic. That's all I ever knew until I came across some doctors who didn't like the principle and that they were fighting against us. So we have to know that they exist, but focus on the ones that are, if we're going to be, as doctors, make a difference, then make a difference. When you're just serving yourself in your practice, you're serving your patients, but are you serving your profession? So I started as a student going to the board meetings of the Florida Chiropractic Society just to be in the room with a Joe Accurso, just to be in the room with a Greg Serrato, a Brian Burns, a Mike Sosa, Michael Shreve, who is the first person who says Dr. Paul Sorchy was called to be a chiropractor. Chiropractic called him. He didn't choose to be a chiropractor. I love Mike Shreve. But those were the doctors who I hung out with. Your dad started the group that brought those men along and those women, the Mindy Weingardens, the Julie Hunts, the Danita Thomas Hagees. They have served our profession, and I learned at their feet. And today I'm the vice president of the same organization with the same zeal and emphasis that they do, and they taught me. We're looking for others. If you've got that, then we welcome you to come and help us join the board because we're kind of just a few of us on there who are working really hard. And there's only a few of you on the outside in management groups that are trying to make a difference. So here's the first thing I can tell a student. One, find some folks that you can emulate, that you respect, and that they have success around them in practice. They're happy. They look like they're having a blast in practice. Learn how to do that. And then you got to get systems and procedures in place. You should have your technique while you're in school. You got to get that. But you got to have systems in place. You reach out. You call a Tom Owen, you call Aligned, you call AMC. If that's not your vibe, call somebody else. But here's what's going to happen. When you call and you talk with them, and here at Aligned, you're going to find out that you've got a family of people who are going to love you and they're going to bring you up. If they don't think that this is where you're going to want to be or that you'll thrive, they'll tell you where to go. I mean, in a good way. They'll tell you what other places maybe you would fit in differently with. That's the beauty about being chiropractors and being in chiropractic. We can be brothers and sisters, and we can tell the truth, whether it's good or bad or ugly, and we can be honest with each other. So I appreciate all that you do. I appreciate the group. This is an amazing, wonderful group of people. You and your sisters, my gosh, what a heart for the chiropractors that are around us, and the lineup of people that you guys have this weekend. It's a privilege to be here.
Well, Dr. Paul, I can't tell you enough that it's more my privilege that just to hear this. See, this lights my fire. It lights my fire, and it's a reminder. It's what you were, as you were recapping all that, wrapping that up. You said something. You were like, come out of school and find that person to emulate, right? Find the people to tune into. Here's the thing: there's a Paul Sorchy sitting there, and he's looking for who can I impact, who can I serve. There's a Tom Owen that's constantly looking, who's the next person I can serve? But I can say this, your same purpose wraps in mine as well, is that it's always about that one more.
Always.
And I don't know if I can speak for chiropractic in general, that these students are coming out and they do want to plug in.
Yeah.
But I watch it time and time and time and time again that we eat our young, and there's not somebody. They don't plug into the right one, and there's just somebody there that looks at them and says, well, there's an opportunity to get an associate. That associate can make me some more money, and then we don't do them justice and develop our next generation. We look at them as competition. And you know what? I did a class earlier that I pointed a stat out, and I think this is a good place to wrap up right here. I figured it up. There's about 40,000, as of today's recording, there's about 40,000 practicing chiropractors in this country. There's about 50,000, give or take, licensed, but there's 40 using it. That is 0.0001% of the population of this country. We're not in competition with each other.
No.
There's more than enough, and the country is getting sicker by the minute. We should be building up, supporting, replicating, and only replicate if you're worth replicating. But we should be pouring into these kids. I shouldn't call them kids, but they're kids to me at this age. But we should be pouring into that next generation, supporting it. And that's why I love the fact that 50 plus years later, something that my dad was a part of founding, you're carrying it forward, and someone else is going to have to carry it forward.
Yes.
And the only way we do that is that we pour into one more. So around Aligned, we're always talking about, it's not about me. It's not about us as the individual chiropractor. Abundance is found in the one more, whether it's one more patient or one more chiropractor. And every time that you impact a chiropractor's life, you could be impacting millions of lives, whether it's through them or they bring up a patient, and that patient has that miracle story, and then 20 years from now, that patient wants to go to chiropractic.
Yes.
And it all came from us doing our part of serving and finding that one more. It's not about what they can give us, it's what we can give them.
Always.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Well spoken.
Dr. Paul, it has been my absolute pleasure, and
That's
I
mine.
thank you. If people don't tell you thank you enough, I thank you for everything that you have done and are doing for chiropractic. And this one doesn't just stay in the state of Florida. This goes all over the world, so thank you for sharing.
Well, I appreciate it. God bless you guys and all that you do.
All right, thank you.